Hello, this is Stephen from Short Season Garden. I usually offer tips and tricks for gardening in short seasons, like here in Zone 3 in Eastern Canada. But today I'm doing a sponsored video on this Breeo X24 smokeless fire pit produced in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Although I already had a beautiful fire pit when Breeo sent their X24 stainless steel fire pit and all these accessories to my door, I was not familiar with smokeless fire pits, so I was quite excited to get it unboxed and build my first fire. The box lid gives 3 main setup instructions together with QR codes for further details. In my hurry to get it unboxed, I paid little attention to the first instruction, which said, "We recommend 2 people lift for placement." According to the spec sheet, the fire pit itself weighs 62 pounds. Step number 2 says, always place your X-Series fire pit on a level, fireproof surface such as rock, stone, or dirt. Before I went on to step number 3 on how to build a fire, I opened up the rest of the packages. First, I opened the Outpost Grill, which comes with a neat carrying case. I set aside the anchor point for now, easily installed the rod on the fire pit, and then attached the grate, upside down I might add. Next, I opened the poker, which was surprisingly heavy and made of solid stainless steel. The ash shovel seemed rather small, but I found out why later. Last but not least was the heavy stainless steel lid together with a handle which had to be attached. So the Breeo fire pit isn't 100% smokeless, especially when you're starting the fire. The reason a fire has smoke is because of lack of heat, lack of oxygen, or the wrong fuel. So the way they're rectifying that is they've got these vents, if you can see in the camera, on the bottom are raised so that even if you have some ash buildup, there's still some ventilation. And then you have a double wall here, and the air enters in a cavity in the bottom, goes up and superheats these outside walls, and then the air shoots up through here, out these vents along the top for secondary combustion, which creates the extra heat and does away with 98% of the smoke once you get your fire going. So there's 3 things needed to build a fire. You need tinder to start a fire, you need kindling to get it going, and then you need some dry fuel. Now they recommend hardwood, of course, and they're saying, and this is a little different than what I used in my older fire pit, or especially in an open fire, not to use a diameter of any more than 4 inches, and 2 inches is even ideal. So I've gone through my wood pile and picked out some of the smaller wood. I live in Canada. We burn wood in the wintertime, so I'm used to having some pretty big wood, some bigger pieces. So they're saying that this is too big for my fire pit. Get some pretty big chunks of wood. That's great for a Canadian winter in the furnace, but not so good in the fire pit. So I've had to sort out my wood. We got some smaller pieces that we're going to use in this fire pit. So I'm used to building a teepee to start my fire. They don't recommend that with this fire pit. They're saying use a log cabin. They're calling it a log cabin. So they're saying to put 2 pieces of hardwood perpendicular to the vents on the bottom of the fire pit. So we got our 2 pieces of hardwood. There's a lot of traffic going by. It's going to be hard to hear. Okay, and then they're saying to build a log cabin on top. So let's see how this is going to work. Okay, now before we go any further, we're going to put our tinder down the bottom. Now they're saying don't crumple the newspaper up, tear it. So I'm going to put some paper down in the bottom to get this fire started. And I have some of this fire starter. I don't want to push this too hard. Put a couple more layers. And then I have these are a little bit old and maybe has some moisture in them, but I'm going to set them in there. Build our teepee up a little higher, or not our teepee, our log cabin. All right, now they don't recommend short matches. Either use long matches or a lighter so you can reach down into your tinder in the bottom. So we're going to light it and see what we get. And of course you can see the smoke is starting to roll. It's not going to be smokeless till we get a good fire going. And they recommend that I wait a couple minutes till the kindling starts burning pretty good, and then we're going to add some more of our hardwood. It's pretty breezy here today, so this is going to blow around for a while. Okay, it's starting to warm up a little bit, so we'll add a little bit more to our log cabin. Fire pit comes with a nice poker. And they even sent me some spices, perfect level of sea salt and spice. Not sure what else is in the bag. Still getting some smoke though. Oh, buttery garlic and herb. Cracked pepper, garlic, and sea salt, and we get cinnamon and sugar cocoa. So while this fire is getting ready, I want to dig out this Breeo Outpost Grill that we're going to use to cook on the top. Now this is designed so you can actually use it over an open campfire. Okay, so we've not tried this before, but this post, you can drive it into the ground. This hooks on like so, but to drive it in, you use the opposite end. Now let's hope this is going to work. The ground is pretty clay here, so it might be a little hard going. It's going down in there. I probably want to drive it a little bit further to make it secure. Then you fasten this in place. I haven't actually studied this out. And then your Breeo grate goes right on the top. You can put it to whatever height you want. Cook over an open fire. Alright, we're going to have to let this burn down a little bit more before we can cook, but it's starting to come. I'm just going to pull, actually they say to pull the stuff out more towards the edges. Still getting some smoke. We'll put a little bit more on her. All right, I'm going to get this grate ready to go. It's going to be hot to adjust on there. Well, we should have done this before I built my fire. It's going to go down in like so. There we go. Pin in underneath. Let's take this off. There we go. She's throwing some heat. It's pretty warm.
So, this is a really nicely built system.
Cool.
That's a lot better. Yeah, it works for me.
So while the chefs are preparing supper, is a good time to mention that Breeo's X series fire pits come in 4 different sizes: 19, 24, 30, or 42 inches. You can get the stainless steel option that they sent me, or a Corten steel version that develops a weathered patina over time, giving it a more rustic look. As well as the Outpost Grill that I got, Breeo sells many other accessories, such as a sear plate griddle that sits right on the rim of the fire pit, an Outpost kettle hook, a fire pit cover, and much more. I will post their Amazon store link, as well as my own, in the description below. Please know that as an Amazon associate, I earn from qualifying purchases. You can also buy directly from Breeo's website at www.breeo.com. Now is also a good time to hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and click the notification button so that you won't miss any of my gardening videos. As you can see, the cook is having a bit of trouble with the heat. We made 2 mistakes. We had too much fire and the grate was adjusted too low. The chef got burned a bit, but supper was delicious. The next morning for breakfast, we were more cautious, starting with a smaller fire. We put the grate high at first to test the heat level.
Too high.
Might be a tad. Go down too low. That's a block.
And then lowered it a couple of times during the cooking. I've commented a couple of times about smoke, but really once you get the fire going good with nice dry small sticks, there is almost zero smoke. You will notice the hot fire that is required to keep it smokeless will consume your wood a lot more quickly than a smoky fire does.
Want to lower it even more? I don't know. No, not a huge amount more. But... yeah, perfect.
Our hot fires, plus some food spillage, stained the rim of the fire pit. I attempted to wipe the rim with a damp sponge after the fire died down, but it was way too hot. If we had had one of the older model X series fire pits that came with an optional wider rim, we could have easily fried our burgers right on the rim. Once the rim cooled down, I tried a couple of household cleaners we had on hand to clean it off. They did an okay job, but on a recommendation I purchased a product called Barkeeper's Friend, which did a better job. To keep the fire pit smokeless, it is important to keep the ashes cleaned out. Breeo recommends shoveling out the ashes at least once every 4 fires. The little ash shovel they gave me works very well for this job. Of course, my favorite part of any outdoor fire, whether in a campground or in the backyard, is sitting around with family and friends after dark, enjoying a s'more or just having fun together. This bit is especially nice because you can sit up close on a cold night and not get smoke in your eyes. And of course, when the conversation dies down around the fire, you can always entertain yourself with one of my gardening videos here on Short Season Garden.